Hey, welcome back everybody. Grab your Sharpie. We're going to learn to lay out a drum. Before we can cut the edges or drill any holes for the hardware, we need to mark the shell. To begin, wrap the edges of the drum with strips of blue painter's tape. Now use a combination square to mark the outer veneer seam on the tape. It's best to be conscious of where you want the seam to land. I like to center mine behind the snare butt. With this in mind, place the drum on the marking jig with the seam centered between two of the lug positions. Use an ultra-fine point marker to mark the lug locations and the center line for the snare strainer on the tape. The screw holes of this snare butt are 1 inch apart, so I'll make a mark 1/2 inch on either side of the center line. Place a strip of painter's tape at each mark, roughly perpendicular to the bottom edge. Mark the piece of tape that is at the strainer position so you don't mistake it for a lug. Use a combination square to extend the marks across the entire shell. Now we'll mark out the mount locations for the lugs. Measure the screw spacing, then measure the height of your drum. Split the difference of these measurements to set your combination square. Now use the square to mark all the lug locations on the top and bottom of the drum. Next, I make a mark 1 inch from the bottom on the center line for the strainer. This is the location of the air vent. It's not very important to measure the holes of the strainer since there is only one. Simply center it on the shell, then tip it on its side and place a mark at both screw holes. Finally, we need to lay out the snare beds. Make a mark 1 inch on each side of the center line of both the strainer and the butt plate. Then make another mark 3 inches from both center lines. Next, set your combination square to 3/16 inches and mark a line across all 4 marks on both bearing edges. To finish, draw a freehand line from the inner marks to the outer marks. This will be the transition between the snare bed and the bearing edges.
As always, if you have any questions or comments, send me an email at dustin@thegaragedrumbuilder.com. See you next time.